The Reckoning. The vast chamber of the Galactic Concordat fell silent as Ambassador Elena Chen materialized on the central platform. Her simple gray uniform stood in stark contrast to the ornate regalia worn by the alien delegates surrounding her. Above them all, the 7 high arbiters of the Concordat peered down from their elevated dais, their expressions ranging from contempt to mild curiosity. High Arbiter Vostakon, his scaled skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that signaled his irritation, leaned forward. "How did you bypass our security protocols?" His translator rendered his clicking speech into standard galactic common. Elena smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The same way we've been observing your council sessions for the past 70 years. Arbiter, we simply stepped through." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Concordat, rulers of nearly 8,000 star systems across 3 spiral arms, had never encountered a species that could penetrate their dimensional barriers. It was supposed to be impossible. "Impossible," echoed Sub-Arbiter Malene, her crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns. "Your species was classified as pre-ascension only 2 centuries ago. You had barely achieved rudimentary spaceflight." Elena nodded. "Yes, we noticed your observation platforms in our system. We allowed them to remain." "Allowed?" The word escaped Vostakon as a hiss. "We were busy with more important matters," Elena continued, unmoved by the growing tension in the room. "Internal conflicts, climate restoration, solar system colonization. Your Concordat was a curiosity, but not a priority." A Thrassi delegate from the lower tiers rose to their appendages, 12 eyes blinking in synchrony. "The human lies. Their technology is primitive. Our survey teams confirmed this only decades ago." Elena turned to face the Thrassi. "Your survey teams saw what we wanted them to see. It's easier to develop when no one recognizes you as a threat." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, some demanding the humans' arrest, others calling for immediate military action against Earth. Vostakon signaled for silence, the patterns on his skin flashing crimson. "Enough." His amplified voice echoed through the chamber. "Ambassador Chen, your presence here violates 17 different Concordat protocols. State your purpose or face immediate detention." Elena reached into her pocket, causing several security drones to activate and train weapons on her. She slowly removed a small metallic sphere, perfectly smooth and featureless. "This is my purpose, High Arbiter. To deliver Earth's formal response to the Concordat's Directive 5591C, issued 43 standard years ago." Vostakon's inner membranes flickered in confusion. Directive 5591C. That was a routine classification of Earth as a protected development zone. It granted your species time to evolve naturally before contact. It sentenced us to permanent technological quarantine. Elena corrected him, her voice hardening. It authorized the covert elimination of any human vessels that ventured beyond Saturn. It sanctioned the occasional abduction and study of our people. It permitted the deployment of influence agents in our governments to ensure we remained fractured and fighting among ourselves. The silence that followed was deafening. The lower-tier delegates looked to the arbiters in confusion, while the higher ranks avoided each other's gaze. "How could you possibly know?" began Malene. "The same way we know about the orbital strike planned for Earth 3 years ago, which you only canceled because you discovered unusual energy readings from our lunar bases." Elena held up the sphere. "The same way we know that this chamber exists partly in normal space and partly in what you call the void dimension." She tossed the sphere into the air where it hung, suspended. Slowly, it began to rotate, emitting a soft blue glow. "What is that device?" demanded Vostakon. "A demonstration," Elena replied as the sphere's rotation increased. "Humanity has developed along different lines than your Concordat species. While you mastered dimensional folding for transportation, we delved into what we call the quantum veil, the layer between realities." The sphere suddenly expanded, creating a perfect transparent bubble that encompassed the entire platform where Alina stood. Outside the bubble, delegates gasped as their technology, communication devices, translation implants, even the artificial gravity, flickered and failed. For the past century, Alina continued, her voice somehow carrying clearly despite the chaos. Earth has been developing technologies that don't just use the laws of physics, they selectively apply them. Within the bubble, small objects began to form from nothing. First simple geometric shapes, then complex mechanisms that assembled themselves from apparent emptiness. What you're witnessing is matter creation through quantum resonance, Alina explained. We're not building these objects. We're calling variants of them from parallel probability states where they already exist. The demonstration ended as abruptly as it began. The sphere contracted back to its original size and floated gently back to Alina's outstretched hand. 3 days ago, your science vessels attempted to penetrate our quantum veil defenses around Neptune. 7 ships with orders to assess our true capabilities and report back. Alina's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. They will not be reporting back. Vostakin rose to his full height, his color patterns now pulsing with alarm signals. Are you declaring war on the Concordat, human? Alina shook her head. No, High Arbiter, I'm delivering an ultimatum. She activated a holographic display from her wrist device. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with thousands of points highlighted in red. These are all Concordat military installations, observation posts, and stealth platforms within 100 light-years of Earth. You have 48 hours to begin their withdrawal. Within 1 standard month, we expect them all to be gone. Preposterous, shouted Sub-Arbiter Quellis, his tentacles writhing in agitation. You cannot make demands of the Concordat. We have ruled these stars for 15,000 years. And perhaps that's been too long, Alina replied quietly. Your rule has bred complacency. Your technology has stagnated. Your society has calcified into rigid castes and immutable hierarchies. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as she could. Humanity doesn't want your territory or your resources. We want to be left alone to develop on our own terms. But if threatened, we will respond. With what fleet? Scoffed Malene. With what armies? You occupy a single star system. Alina smiled again, and this time there was something in it that sent a chill through even the most hardened delegates. We don't need fleets, Arbiter. Not in the conventional sense. She tapped her sphere once more, and the holographic display shifted to show a series of simulations. This is what happens when we selectively suspend the weak nuclear force within a targeted spatial field. The simulation showed a Concordat dreadnought simply coming apart. Not exploding, not breaking. Its atomic bonds simply ceased to maintain cohesion. And this, she continued as the display changed again, is what happens when we accelerate entropy in a localized area. An entire defense platform aged centuries in seconds, its materials deteriorating, its energy sources depleting, until nothing remained but floating debris. The choice before you is simple, Alina said into the stunned silence. Acknowledge Earth as a sovereign power outside your jurisdiction. Remove your military presence from our vicinity. Cease all covert operations against our people. She stepped to the edge of the platform, her next words measured and clear. Or discover why we've spent the last century preparing for a war we hope never to fight. With that, Alina Chen vanished, not with the customary flash of Concordat teleporters, but by simply fading from existence, as though she'd never been there at all. The only evidence of her visit was the lingering holographic display and the silence of 10,000 delegates confronting the unthinkable. In his private chamber, Vostakin faced the 6 other High Arbiters, their secure communication channel humming with encryption algorithms. Could the humans' claims be true? Asked Malene, her crystalline form still showing agitation patterns. Vostakin gestured to their intelligence chief, a shadowy figure known only as the Nexus. The observations from their system have been inconsistent. We detected energy signatures unlike anything in our databases, but our analysts dismissed them as natural phenomena. A mistake, it seems, observed Arbiter Xenlo, the eldest among them, perhaps a fatal one. We cannot allow this challenge to stand, insisted Quelus. If we yield to these humans, 1,000 other species will rise up against our authority. And if we don't, countered Xenlo, we may not have an authority left to defend. As the arbiters argued, the human vessel that had brought Elena Chin to the Concordat station hung in space, a simple, unadorned craft that seemed almost primitive in design. Inside, Elena removed her diplomatic insignia and took a deep breath. Phase 1 complete, she reported to the quantum-encrypted channel. They're scared, but divided. Expect hardliners to push for a demonstration of force. The response came not through any conventional communication system, but directly into her mind. Understood. Quantum veil protocols at full readiness. The next move is theirs. Elena looked out the view screen at the massive Concordat station, a monument to 15 millennia of uncontested rule, and wondered how much of it would still exist by week's end. The new dawn. The emergency session of the Concordat Inner Circle had lasted for 30 consecutive hours. Delegates from the 1,000 most powerful worlds argued, threatened, and pleaded as reports continued to stream in from across the galaxy. Another observation post gone, announced Intelligence Nexus, his form shifting nervously between states of matter. This one near the Ta City approach. Same pattern. All communication ceased simultaneously. No distress signals, no debris. Vostaken's scales had dulled from exhaustion. The once vibrant patterns now faded and sluggish. How many does that make? 17 in total, replied Nexus, all within the 100 light-year boundary specified by the human ambassador. Sub-Arbiter Maline's crystalline form had developed microfractures from stress. They're enforcing their ultimatum before the deadline. This is deliberate provocation. Xenlo, who had remained largely silent during the heated debates, finally spoke. No, this is a message. They're demonstrating that our deadline was a courtesy, not a limitation of their capabilities. A furious Quelus slammed his appendages against the council table. We cannot submit to these primitives. The Concordat has maintained galactic stability for 15,000 years. Without our authority, chaos will reign. Authority requires power, observed Xenlo quietly, and it seems our power may have been overestimated. The chamber doors slid open, admitting a breathless junior officer whose anxiety pheromones filled the room. High Arbiters, we've received a transmission from Fleet Command. The 7th Deterrence Group has engaged a human vessel near the Procyon system. The room fell silent. On whose authority? Vostaken demanded, his scales flushing crimson. Fleet Admiral Zerkath. Sir. He classified it as a preemptive security action under Emergency Protocol 17. Vostaken exchanged glances with the other arbiters. Zerkath was a hardliner, ambitious and ruthless. He'd been vocal about making an example of the humans. What's the status of the engagement? Asked Maline. The junior officer's voice trembled. That's why I was sent, High Arbiter. The 7th Deterrence Group. It's gone. Define gone, Vostaken said, each word precise and heavy. 15 capital ships, 37 escorts, and their support vessels, all vanished from our sensors simultaneously. The automated beacons are still transmitting location data, but there are no ships at those coordinates. Just empty space. Intelligence Nexus began accessing data streams, his form flickering rapidly. Confirmation from multiple sources. The entire fleet has disappeared without trace. No debris field, no radiation signature, no distress calls. The junior officer, sensing the historic gravity of the moment, added, "There's more, High Arbiters." The human vessel transmitted a message before departing the area. Audio only. Shall I? Vostaken nodded grimly. The officer activated his communication implant, and a calm human voice filled the chamber. This was not our choice. Your vessels fired first. despite our warnings. They have not been destroyed, merely relocated to a holding dimension. Their life support will function for 10 standard days. Consider this time carefully. We await your response." For several moments, no one spoke. Then Senlo rose slowly to his feet, his ancient form moving with surprising dignity. "I move that we accept the human terms immediately," he said. "Our options are exhausted." "Surrender," hissed Quelus, "without exhausting every military option." "What military option?" countered Senlo. "Shall we send more ships to vanish? Launch planetary strikes that will never reach their targets? The humans have clearly mastered dimensional technologies beyond our understanding." Vostaken, torn between pride and pragmatism, looked to Intelligence Nexus. "Your assessment." The Intelligence Chief's form solidified into his most serious configuration. "Based on observed capabilities, I calculate a less than 7% probability of successful military action against Earth. Their technology appears to operate on principles we have not yet conceptualized, let alone counter." The debate raged for hours more, but the outcome was inevitable. With the 7th Deterrence Group held hostage and more installations disappearing by the hour, the Concordat's position weakened with each passing moment. As the Council prepared to formalize their decision, a new communication arrived. A request for a direct meeting with the High Arbiters. From Ambassador Chen. The neutral location chosen for the meeting was an ancient space station at the edge of what humans called the Oort Cloud, technically within Sol system, but far from Earth itself. A symbolic midpoint. Alina Chen arrived alone again, her simple vessel docking with the station without escort or fanfare. The High Arbiters, accompanied only by minimal security, waited in the station's central chamber. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting," Alina began, her tone more conciliatory than during her appearance before the full Concordat. "Earth appreciates the difficult position in which the Concordat finds itself." Vostaken, still struggling with the humiliation of the situation, kept his voice carefully neutral. "The Concordat has voted to accept your terms, Ambassador. Our military installations are already being withdrawn from the specified zone." Elena nodded. "We know. And the officers and crew of your 7th Deterrence Group have been returned to Procyon Station. They are unharmed, though some may require psychological support." "You've made your point, human," said Quelus bitterly. "Your species possesses power we cannot match. Is that why you requested this meeting? To witness our submission in person?" Elena's expression softened slightly. "No, Arbiter. I requested this meeting to explain what happens next, because it may not be what you expect." She activated a holographic display, but instead of military demonstrations, it showed cultural and scientific images from Earth, art, music, mathematics, philosophy. "Earth has no desire to replace the Concordat as a galactic hegemon," she explained. "We don't want your territories, your resources, or your authority over other species. Our quarrel was never with the Concordat's existence, only with its interference in our development." The Arbiters exchanged confused glances. "Then what do you want?" asked Malene. "To be left alone, primarily," Elena answered, "but also to establish relations based on mutual respect rather than domination. The quantum veil technology that so concerns you. We're prepared to share aspects of it with the Concordat, once proper diplomatic relations are established." The shock among the Arbiters was palpable. "Share it?" repeated Vostaken incredulously. "Why would you give your greatest advantage to those you just defeated?" Elena smiled, genuinely this time. "Because humanity doesn't see the galaxy as a zero-sum game, Arbiter. We believe that knowledge should flow freely, that different perspectives strengthen rather than threaten." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed the theoretical foundations of quantum veil physics. "Your scientists took one path of dimensional exploration. Ours took another. Imagine what might be possible if we combine these approaches instead of hoarding them." "A trap," muttered Quelus. They seek to infiltrate our scientific institutions. If we wanted to infiltrate your institutions, Alina pointed out gently, we could have done so decades ago, undetected. This is a genuine offer. Kexenlo, who had been studying the equations with evident fascination, looked up. You speak of cooperation, yet your first contact with us was an ultimatum backed by force. How do you reconcile these approaches? Elena nodded, acknowledging the criticism. We tried more subtle approaches first. 3 times in the last century, humans attempted to establish diplomatic contact with Concordat representatives. Each time, they were classified as specimens and disappeared into your research facilities. The arbiters shifted uncomfortably, unable to deny the accusation. We learned that the Concordat only respects power, Elena continued. So we demonstrated power first. Now we can speak as equals. Vostakin's scales had begun to show patterns of cautious interest rather than hostility. And what would this equal relationship entail? Elena deactivated the hologram and faced the arbiters directly. Earth proposes a new compact, not just with the Concordat, but with all spacefaring civilizations in this sector. A framework for interaction based on scientific exchange, cultural respect, and sovereign autonomy. The Concordat has maintained peace for, began Quelus, 15,000 years. Yes, we know, Elena interrupted, through rigid control and technological suppression. But peace without growth becomes stagnation. The galaxy deserves better. She produced a data crystal and placed it on the table between them. This contains our full proposal, including verification protocols that should satisfy your security concerns. We're not asking for the Concordat to dismantle itself, only to evolve. And if we refuse, asked Malene, then you continue to rule your territories, and we continue to develop ours, separately, Elena replied simply. But you would miss an opportunity to advance your civilization by centuries within a few decades. As the arbiters studied the data crystal, Fenlo asked one final question. You could have conquered us. Why didn't you? Elena's answer came without hesitation. Because domination isn't victory, arbiter. Cooperation is. 6 months later, the Galactic Concordat convened its first open assembly in 12,000 years. Representatives from 57 previously suppressed species joined the traditional delegates on the council floor, not as subjects, but as equals. Elena Chen, now formally recognized as Earth's permanent ambassador, watched from her newly established position as the Compact of Mutual Advancement was ratified by majority vote. The margin was slim. Many Concordat conservatives had fought against the changes to the end, but sufficient. As the session concluded, Vostakin approached her, his scales now bearing the muted patterns of his new role as transition coordinator rather than high arbiter. It seems you've achieved everything you wanted, Ambassador, he observed, his tone complex with mixed emotions. Elena shook her head. Not everything, Coordinator, just the beginning. She gestured toward the chamber where delegates of all species now mingled freely, exchanging ideas that would have been forbidden mere months earlier. For 15,000 years, the Concordat maintained the stars as they were, she said. Now we'll discover what they might become. Outside the great windows of the council chamber, the first joint human Concordat research vessel prepared for its maiden voyage. Its mission to explore the deeper layers of reality that neither civilization had fully understood alone. The ship bore a new insignia, neither Earth's nor the Concordat's, but a spiral pattern representing the endless possibilities of cooperation. And beneath it, in the scripts of a dozen worlds, a simple phrase that had begun as humanity's warning, but evolved into something more. Together we ascend.